A group of people are trapped in an elevator and the devil is amongst them. In today's video, I will tell you about a group of people who got trapped in an elevator with the devil himself. Before we begin, I would like to ask you to subscribe for more amazing videos. Also, if you believe that the supernatural world does exist, then comment supernatural world in the comment section below. Let's get started. Imagine being stuck in an elevator with a bunch of different people. Now imagine that these people are strangers. You have no idea who they are or what they do, but suddenly the lights go out and the air grows cold. As you try to calm your nerves, you hear whispering and footsteps approaching you. It seems as though something evil has entered the elevator with you. This is exactly what happened to a man named Forrest. One day, Forrest was heading home after work when he decided to take the elevator instead of the stairs. He had just gotten off on the 6th floor, and the elevator was almost empty. There were only 2 other people inside. One of them was a businessman who seemed to be in his late 30s. The other person was a woman who looked around her mid-20s. When the doors opened on the next floor, 3 more people got in. When the elevator started going down, the businessman took his eyes off his phone for a moment and said to the people around him, "Sorry, I don't mean to sound rude, but can someone tell me which floor this is on? I pressed the button for the 2nd floor, but it seems like we're still not there." A young girl who was standing by the elevator's mirror replied, "We're on the 3rd floor right now." "Oh, thank you," the man said with a slight smile. "I really am terrible with directions." At this point, the elevator dinged and the doors opened. 2 people got out and 2 others got in. The man looked at his watch and said, "This better be the last stop because I'm already late as it is." After the new passengers got off on the 7th floor, the businessman took his phone out again and said, "Finally, let's go." The man looked up from his phone and said, "What did you say?" "I said, let's go," the businessman repeated, raising his voice a little bit. At this point, the lights went out and the elevator began shaking violently. Everyone screamed and held onto the handrails for their dear life. They could hear each other's heartbeats pounding in their ears. Forrest felt something wet trickle down his neck and realized that he had been sweating. Suddenly, as it began, the elevator stopped moving. All they heard was a loud crash followed by a long, awkward silence. The passengers were too afraid to speak. They didn't know what had happened or if anyone had been injured. One of the girls broke the silence and asked, "What just happened? Is everything okay?" The businessman replied, "Of course it's okay. It's probably just a power outage. Someone please tell me how we're supposed to get out of here." Then, right before their eyes, the elevator doors opened slowly, revealing a pitch-black hallway. The businessman, being the brave one, stepped forward and turned his flashlight on. Everyone else did the same. The light revealed nothing but darkness and a pair of stairs leading upwards. "Let's go," the businessman said firmly. "We won't be able to stay in here forever." Forrest noticed that the businessman kept glancing nervously over his shoulder, as if he was afraid someone was following them. While everyone walked up the stairs, Forrest couldn't help but feel like they were being watched. After reaching the top of the stairs, they found themselves in a dark, damp room. It looked as though it hadn't been used in years. The businessman stepped forward and pressed the wall with his shoulder, but it didn't budge. "It's stuck," he yelled, panicking. "How are we supposed to get out of here?" At this point, the girl who had spoken up earlier stepped forward and placed her hands on the wall. She closed her eyes, concentrated, and pushed hard. To everyone's surprise, the wall slid open, revealing a narrow hallway. They all walked down the hallway until they saw a light at the end of it. The businessman was so relieved that he practically ran towards the light. Once they stepped out of the hallway and into the main area, they realized that they were in a church. The businessman turned around and thanked everyone who had helped him. But much to his surprise, the girl was nowhere to be seen. He turned back to go back inside and find her, but the wall was now shut and locked. "Help me, please," the businessman cried out. No one answered. He tried to push the wall open, but it wouldn't budge. Then he remembered seeing an exit sign above the door. He ran over and threw open the door, only to find that it was locked from the outside. Panicked, he turned back and shouted, "Why won't this stupid door open? Somebody, please help me." Just then, a familiar voice spoke up behind him. "Need some assistance there, mister?" The businessman turned around and saw the man he had initially asked for directions, but now his appearance had changed dramatically. His skin was pale white and his eyes glowed in eerie red. The businessman stared back at him in disbelief. "You're the devil," he whispered. The devil smiled wickedly. "Well, you certainly seem to think so," he replied. "But if you want to see my true form, come closer." The businessman took a step back, but tripped over something and fell to the ground. Before he knew it, the devil was kneeling over him. The businessman screamed as the devil's face loomed over him. "Don't worry, my dear boy," the devil said with a chuckle. "It's just me. You shouldn't be so afraid." The businessman shook his head rapidly, trying to make sense of what was happening. "What do you want from me?" he stammered. The devil stood up and brushed imaginary dust off his clothes. "Oh, nothing much," he replied casually. "Just your soul." The businessman screamed and scrambled away from him. "No, I won't let you take my soul," he cried. He ran over to the door and pounded on it with his fists. "Help me, please," he begged. "Somebody, please let me out." But his cries for help went unanswered. The businessman slumped down against the door and slid to the ground. He closed his eyes and waited for his doom, but it never came. When he opened his eyes again, the devil was gone and the door was open. He walked out of the church and into the bright sunshine. Shaking and weak, he made his way to a nearby bus stop and waited for transportation. As he rode the bus home, he thought about everything that had happened. He couldn't believe that he had actually seen the devil himself. When he finally arrived home, he rushed inside and locked the door. He told his wife everything that had happened, but she just laughed and said that he was making it up. The businessman knew that she didn't believe him, but he didn't care. He had escaped the clutches of the devil, and that's all that mattered. And that's all for today's story. Tell us in the comments below what you think about the story. And also, don't forget to subscribe.